Welcome to the webinar. You have entered as an organizer and may now speak to any other organizers or panelists on the line. When you are ready to begin the presentation, press the Start Broadcast button on the GoToWebinar control panel to allow all attendees to hear you. This system will notify you once you begin your broadcast. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everyone, I'm so sorry I'm 5 minutes late today, and it's actually not my fault, it's Ashley's fault, because Ashley sent me this about 30 minutes ago, and ever since he sent me, I got so engrossed looking at the site and looking at everything, and when I looked up, it was already 7:05, so I had to just jump into this. So if you could just press the hand button, let me know that you guys can see the screen and hear me as well. That'll be great, fantastic. Now I'm so sorry I got late today, but ever since I got your email, actually I've been looking at your deal, so just got so engrossed into looking at everything that you had sent. So I think I'm gonna start with your project today, and then we can go into the other section on consultants and obtaining permits as we go along. So I quite like this deal, and I've done my own numbers as a worst case scenario, just to be sure or double sure. I've inflated the construction cost here, and I've inflated the finance cost here a little bit more as well. Your stamp duty was 5.5, which is 5.5 is usually is more appropriate for Victoria. I think the stamp duty in Queensland is about 4%. So I've changed that, and yes, I've not been able to find anything about this side apart from the fact that it came in. So yeah, as soon as I got this, I completely forgot. So here we are, talking about it. Actually, I'm just gonna give you the mic, and then you can talk us through this project. And it looks like a good deal, and the market doesn't look like. The only thing that concerns me a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit, is the fact that there's a bit on the market in terms of rental in that area. Where did I put your sheet that you have sent me? Hang on one second. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Okay, Ashley, I'm just gonna unmute you, and now you can talk.
Okay. All right, thanks, Amber. Sorry for sending it so late. I was trying to make it comprehensible, and I left it too late. Okay, so the site is in a suburb called Maruka. I've been living overseas for so long that I'm not so familiar with the suburbs of Brisbane, so I wasn't that familiar with Maruka, but I was looking for zoned LMR land in Brisbane. LMR is the local lingo for
Yep, low medium residential.
Yeah, exactly. So you can put townhouses or up to 3-story walk-up apartments and so on. So I came across this site. I've been looking for sites around about this sort of size. A year ago, I'd seen this is a 1,200 square meter, 1,214 square meter development site. A year ago, I'd seen some townhouses for sale where they managed to squeeze 10 townhouses onto such a site, like a similar corner block.
Yeah.
And they had all sold out within 2 weeks, which basically tells you that people they were selling at like $550,000. This is in a nicer suburb, different suburb.
Yeah.
But it's telling you that the market wants affordable housing that you can fit a family in. So this is a similar block in the sense of its shape and size, but most of I've looked at all the townhouse developments in this area, and the site coverage, that is the envelope of the building, versus the underlying land, they're all about 49%. But I've seen in other suburbs, that can be as much as 63%. So I'm not sure what the rationale is for one suburb versus another. The suburb itself is relatively close to the city.
About
but still very cheap.
About 16 minutes or 8 kilometers from CBD.
Yeah, this area itself doesn't flood, but next to it, over the big road, Ipswich motorway, that land floods in there.
Yeah, I saw the flood. I pulled out the flood report as well on the site, and it says there are currently no river, creek, or whatever.
Yeah,
on
so
this side.
It's a nice suburb. It's a hilly suburb. So it's a very pretty suburb, actually. Its problem is the crime levels are relatively high. It's got a bit of a bad name, the suburb, in terms of crime. And if you can look at Queensland crime data, I can send that link some other time, but I found the link today. So statistically, it's got about 3 times the monthly police incidences that the suburb that I live in, which is a fairly safe suburb.
Yeah.
So I'm in Barden, and Moorooka's got about 3 times already. It's not the worst suburb in terms of crime, but it's obviously something which depresses values in that area. And while this is not an issue for me, it might be an issue for some. There's refugee sort of migrant community in the area, so that's very visible. Which some maybe older conservative Australians have issues with. I'm not sure, but those are the drawbacks of the suburb. But otherwise, the suburb is very nice and low priced. So maybe it's a long-term investment to the suburb. Who knows? But from a development point of view, yeah, you could. I looked around. I drove around the area. There are. It's mostly old Queenslander houses with some townhouse developments in the area. And the townhouses, I've got transaction price data there. For a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1-car property townhouse, you're looking at $480,000. This is based on buildings built after 2011. If you put a second car park in, it goes up to $530,000, I think, which is a 52K premium for a second car space, which makes sense given construction costs and margin and GST. The land itself, you can see on that contour map you're showing right here, it slopes slightly. If you go back to the contour map, it slopes very slightly down to the lesser of the 2 streets. So it's a 2-street frontage corner block development.
It's pretty flat.
As I said, yeah, it's very flat. So it's a very, very... so it's not totally flat. I understand that a slight bit of slope is good. So it's not totally flat. It's got a little bit of a slope, but I don't think there'd be anything which would add to construction costs. I don't know where the drainage. It doesn't slope to the main road. The main road is Keats Street, and then there's a lesser street. So the slope is, those are 1 meter contour map lines that you can see there. So it's got a slight slope to the lesser road.
Yeah.
But that block over the street on the same side of the main road, but over the lesser road, that block has been developed into townhouse. And obviously they wouldn't have had drainage issues building that townhouse development there. So, and if anything, they would have worse drainage issues. So that should be fine. There is, if you look at the top-down photo, you can see trees around the border. I actually drove and looked at the site. They're pretty big trees, but they're on the border of the property. Except for in the northwest corner, there's a couple there that are sort of annoyingly in the middle. They're not so big though, so I don't know if you could get rid of those or not. But the ones on the right, I suspect you wouldn't be able to get rid of because they're quite big. And the one thing I am concerned about, there's that little green speck. Now it's just a concrete slab. I'm just wondering, is there some council infrastructure under that concrete slab, and that's why they put a shed there, because it's kind of a strange place to put a shed.
Right here.
Yeah, that green thing there. There's no green thing there anymore. It's just a concrete slab. So when I looked at it, I was wondering, well, what's that? And then I looked on the Google Street Maps, and then it shows there used to be like a shed there. But maybe that's a shed hiding infrastructure. I don't know. I don't know these things. This is my thoughts looking at it. And then it's, in terms of distance, you can walk. There's like there's a big shopping centre in the area, so there's about 4.8 kilometres to a proper shopping centre. There are some collection of Woolworths and a few other eateries and so on not that far away. So yeah, it's a post-war house in Queensland. You got to be careful about the age of the house. So that's obviously an ugly old brick house, which you could easily knock down. It is into 3 lots already, so instead of doing townhouses, you could probably do 3 terrace houses, maybe. I don't know, but probably economics would suggest you do townhouses. So if you've got a site coverage ratio of 49%, you can put in, I think, 8 townhouses. If you had a 60% coverage ratio, you could probably squeeze in 10 with a driveway right up the middle, with 5 on each side, maybe.
Yeah, I'd do it. I would look. The site looks really good, and not only that, even the numbers, even the worst case scenario looks really good. So it just depends upon your position as by yourself, if you can handle a project. I mean, do you think you can buy the land and settle on it and go through that, or would you?
I can afford the land, so that's not an issue. So what I would want to know is doing things like I'm not emotionally set on this piece of land. It's just something I found for this exercise. My concern is crime rates and stuff like that, but then you're selling a cheap property, and that stuff hasn't changed in recent times. So
if you're selling
so
if you're selling them at 530, this is your worst case scenario, I reckon.
Well, 530. They're selling over the road at 575, but they have not been moving. And the data which I show for other townhouses suggest a range of 480 to 530. So I think you could sell at 530 for brand new places. The construction costs I got from looking at the ratio of Brisbane to Melbourne. So I took your 1700 and I applied some ratio. Brisbane costs are lower than Melbourne costs.
Yep.
So that's how I came up with my costs. But I also used the Rawlinson guide, and your number seems to be an average, including the fact that you've got balconies and garages, which are lower cost. But if you apply the specific cost for those things, you get a similar rate for the overall rate per townhouse. So yeah, no, it's something I would like to approach this in a proper way. Like, what's my strategy? Okay, I still need to set up a development entity, and then get a town planner to confirm what can be done with it, and make sure that there's no council infrastructure as prevents you developing the land, or the arborist report, I guess. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I don't think you need an arborist report. When I look at this is nothing. You know, this is the one that we were talking about and we were looking at from here, where you sat. These are shrubs, mate. This is not a this isn't a proper tree. Even this, I'm not sure, unless it's a species that they would want to retain, and even then, it is right at the boundary. It shouldn't affect your because you're gonna have some setbacks. And you won't be building right at the boundary anyway. And
I noticed with the neighbouring property, they had a big tree on the property, but they still managed to build a townhouse. And it was a lovely jacaranda. And rather than killing the jacaranda, they just trimmed it right back. And because the jacaranda was in the corner of the tree, the corner of the property. So there seems to be options like that. So even if the tree is there, but it's a bit big and a bit big for your construction, you just chop the hell out of it and just leave it basically a stump with a few green shoots coming out of it, which is what they did next door. It's a nice suburb. I mean, visually it's a nice suburb. Nice parks and rolling hills, and it slopes down from that road. You slope down to a school, so you can see kids playing in a decent-looking school just down the bottom of the hill.
See, you got 4 on this side. I'm just trying to see minimum. You can get minimum 8, at least. You got 8 in this lot alone. You got 4 in this lot alone. And over here you got 1, 2, 3, 4. And then maybe that's like a car park. 1, 2, 3, and then 4 at the back. So you got 8 here. 8's no brainer. Based on your 50% coverage and all of that.
Well, if you do the development over the road, and I calculated their total. Yeah, I just applied a ratio of the size of that land versus the size of 125 Keith Street, and using that ratio, you would get up to about. Yeah, you do it. You could do 80. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so your setbacks are going to be in line with this house here, and then if I just clear that and put it again, it will be in line with this.
So over the road, over the Casca Street and that Keith Street, Casca Street corner, that's a townhouse development now. That's 5. They look quite nice, but they have not been moving. And it's because they're asking too much, 575k.
These ones?
Yeah, just on the right, they're asking too much. They looked a bit empty. Not those ones. No, there's some brand new ones. It's not available on Google Street Maps yet.
Okay.
I've taken photos there. I can send you through more up-to-date photos, but yeah.
Well, I think you need to get in touch with Troy.
Okay, so Troy is your architect, town planner, is he?
Yeah, he's an architect. He's in touch with another town planner in Brisbane. He's a really good guy. Goes out of the way to help people, and I highly recommend him.
Okay, if you send his details through, I'll get in touch with him.
I'll just find his details. There you go. Anyone who isn't.
I mean, I have met a town planner in Brisbane before. I've had like a sort of a information lunch with some guy before. So I'll contact this guy. I'll check it out.
Yeah, Troy can do the schematics and the yield and everything for you. He's pretty quick with that, and I mean he works with some town planners.
So what he would then charge? So what you charge like $500 or something like that to do some quick basic schematics, or how would that work? Because I'd want some basic schematics and confirmation before.
Yeah, he's gonna give you some basic schematics, and if you want like an advice from a town planner, he can get in touch with the town planner and give you the details. I think the next step would be to figure out what these trees are, and get the section 32, or sorry, get the disclosure statement, which would have the easements, where the easements are. And I wouldn't go to Troy just like that. I would get the disclosure statement, extract all the plan of subdivision, and get where the easements are and all those things, and send him as much details as possible before he starts working on it.
So the agent can give that information. I ask the agent for that information.
Yes,
I haven't spoken with the agent.
Yeah, you ask the agent to give you the contract and the disclosure statement. So the disclosure statement is the same as section 32 here, or the vendor statement. So if he gives you that, the disclosure statement would have the lot plan number, the folio number, the plan of subdivision where this subdivision was in. It'll show the easement. It'll show it shows a whole lot of other details as well, and you'll be able to see on the title whether or not it's got a mortgagee on it, like if there is a bank on it, if there are any caveats on the property, all of those things. I would get those contract of sale and disclosure statement for this property, extract those details, then go to Troy and say, look, these are the details, have a look. You can let him know that you know me, or I refer to you. Troy knows me really well. All my other mentoring students from Brisbane, he's also with Troy at the moment.
Okay.
So yeah, he'll be able to get back to you pretty quick to give you some sort of numbers. And what you want to figure out is the total built area and the total saleable area, so that you can refine your numbers again and figure out how you're gonna what the numbers look like as a worst case scenario.
All right, and then he would charge me a fee, obviously, for doing that bit of work.
Look, if you're serious with going ahead with this, and you give him the job,
well, I'm not serious until I know whether Saks up.
Of course,
so I'm happy to pay.
Yeah, you can let him know that whatever his minimum, he may or may not charge you. I'm not sure what exactly he's going to charge you, because the way we got him to do something for us, we went ahead with it, and he adjusted everything in his final quote.
Why do some I've looked at so many of these little projects, and I see their time horizons and whatever, and so many of them, they get their approvals and then they just sit on it and they don't do anything, and then the construction takes so long, and then it's like ages later they finally get the thing finished, and then I don't know. There's so many projects which, yes, you could do the quick turnaround of like 9-month construction or something, and then 2 months sales being settled, but I find some of them just drag out a long period of time.
It's because of finance.
It's finance, not like, okay.
If there is nothing wrong with the project, it's the finance, because you got to get your pre-sales. And the only way you're going to get your pre-sales is if you try and sell them at 575 and they are slow moving, then you'll know that they're moving slow. But if you know that you can move them a lot quicker at 530 with the contract, you'll be able to move them a lot quicker. It just depends upon the builder. If the builder, the good thing about this block is the school's right here. Like, you could cross the road and there's a school.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a nice looking school too by the looks of it. Yeah. And the drive into the city is quite pleasant. There's quite a nice sort of greeny, hilly drive going into the main road and then going into the city. So.
Yeah, and this is a good investor product as well. I mean, if you're saying there's too much crime, I'd upgrade all of them with a security alarm or something, which is a must.
Right.
For the people who are looking to buy, for them to, it's actually so...
Feel comfortable.
Yeah, it's comfortable. I can never imagine to get a site for 1.1 mil in Melbourne and then put 8 or 10 on them. There's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
The entry point is so high here in Melbourne. It's difficult, but at 1.1 we could do lots of these developments. And look, I mean, even internally, you could go to the Woolies. You could go. There's a Nando's here. It's a pretty good location, actually. I mean, apart from that crime rate, but I feel that it's got good growth potential, even for future.
Yeah, the marketing spend for the people trying to push Maruka as a suburb, they say it's the next West End. It's got that potential hipster factor because it's multicultural, da 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 da, and so on. So and it's near. So West End is a suburb which was sort of bohemian and whatever a while ago, and then it become very expensive. So they're saying it's kind of the next suburb along that may one day go down that path. Whether you can believe that or not is another thing, but that's what they say. So, yeah.
Yeah, look, I think it looks pretty good. Give Troy a call. I've sent you his contact details.
Okay, thank you. No, I'll do that, and I'll need. So I'll meet up with the solicitor to find out what sort of offer template I need, and meet with your town planner and get a yield and all those sort of things. I still got to decide what entity I develop under. Like, I'm going through your literature on that.
Have you got a solicitor there?
Yes, I've got actually an old school friend he's a solicitor who specialises in property development stuff. So
okay.
I met up with him the other day, so I'll meet up with him.
Well, if you've got somebody, then great. Otherwise, we use. I've used Warlow Scott.
Well, if you can send me another name, I don't know how good my friend is. I'm going to get another friend to tell me how good my friend is. So, so he's a nice guy. I like dealing with people that I know and I can trust. So that's good. Yeah.
His name is Peter Sprott, and I'm going to give you his details as well. There you go.
Man, I need an accountant. I've spoken to one accountant, so I've got a few little things I need to do, just sort of infrastructure-wise.
Yeah, I haven't got an accountant there. I used to deal with Hoffman Kelly as an accountant, but I moved everything to Melbourne, so yeah.
Yep. No, I know a name, and I've talked to him in the past, so I can refresh that contact again, so that's fine.
Yeah, so you would want an accountant who maybe actually I don't think Hoffman Kelly would work because Tony Hoffman, who was the owner, I think he passed away recently. And he used
The
to
guy
do,
that I'm probably going to use, the guy called Paul Copeland, is quite a well-known accountant who does property development stuff.
yeah. So yeah, if someone's already done property development, that's actually much better. They understand how everything works. A lot of accountants don't. So yeah, but I think yeah, you should find out more. See what Troy has to say. See what the town planning has to say. If you got the two big ticks from the town planner and Troy, this deal stacks up perfectly.
Okay, good. All right.
So yeah, so well done.
Well, it's just I search LMR and that's the line which came out. So maybe it'll be sold. Who knows? We'll see. Yeah, it's available theoretically according to the website.
Yeah, get the disclosure statement first, and then go and see Troy about this.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start with consultants. We were just talking about consultants. Anybody else would? Thanks so much, Ashley. I'm gonna put you back on mute.
Okay.
And
Thanks.
thank you. Anybody else who would like to ask any questions before we start today's session? Will had a question regarding a JV with the builder. Will, I'm gonna unmute you if you wanted to ask something. Will. Hello? Okay, looks like Will's not available. Let's go back. Okay, Will's back. Hang on. Yes, Will. Hello? Hello? Okay, I can't hear him at the moment. Anybody else who would like to ask a question before we start today's session? Okay, then we're starting today's session. So we were just talking about consultants, and you want to find out consultants that have experience in similar developments that you are doing. So that's what we were saying. Whether it's a lawyer or your accountant or town planners, they should have already done that kind of developments before. So, and you will find that unless you do the same kind of developments over and over again, you will find, especially in Melbourne, I find that we have 3, 4, 5 different kind of architects that we use, and now we actually have 3 different town planning firms as well that we use. And it's not that one's better than the other, or we decide to use it with the architects. We picked up a few projects that came with the plans, so it was better and easier to go to the architect who did the town planning to do the working drawings, because they already knew everything about the site. And with the other town planners, and we've changed them depending upon the size of the project or the kind of project that we are doing, or another reason was that one town planner did a lot of work with the council that we were dealing with, so they already know the working of the council in a lot more detail than others. But in Melbourne, we actually mostly use Urbis. Hang on one second. I don't know if anyone's heard of Urbis. Urbis is everywhere. They're an international firm, and they're in Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne. In fact, they're international now as well. So we know somebody who's the director at one of the directors at Urbis. So we deal with them, but Urbis is not cheap. Urbis is one of the dearer ones, but they are very good. I prefer to be sure or double sure and pay a little bit more because of what we get with Orbis. But there are different firms that you can use, and different. Usually, most of the architects already have certain tower planners. Certain town planners that they already work with. So yeah, you can work via referral, just like I send some referrals to Ashley just then. And if you're in Victoria, I've got similar referrals that I can send you to, or architects that I can send you to, or accountants that if you want to go and see, I can refer you to my accountant as well. So the same goes with lawyers. Again, there are different kind of lawyers and solicitors. They are conveyancer, property lawyer, and there are people who know what they're talking about, but most people don't, because when it comes to property development, there are joint ventures. There are scenarios where, let's say I do a deal with the landowner that I'm going to settle on a block of land in 18 months. But I get my DA in 9 months, and what I want to do is go straight into marketing and start selling. You can put together your Section 32 for the unit to be able to sell without actually settling on the land in the first place. You can do that. It's messy. It's not messy, but it's sometimes people who are buying the contract becomes fat, because the disclosure statement or the vendor statement would have your Section 32 of the stuff that you're selling, your townhouses, your body corporate details, your floor plans, your preliminary plan of subdivision, or the building format plan. It would have all your details, but in the same Section 32, underneath it would have the original block of land that you are buying. So the contract would become that much fat. A lot of solicitors, if you go to, would straight off say, no, I can't do this, or you can't do this, or you gotta wait or settle on that first. I'm sorry, I'm going out of breath pretty quick today, but the reason those solicitors are saying that is to keep things cleaner, not that because it cannot be done. I have done that. We had a very long settlement or something, and then we got the permit, we put it on the market, and we had 2 pre-sales already in place before it was time to settle. So we went straight for the construction loan, which repackaged the entire loan into one big settlement, rather than first we settled on the land and then waited for a few months to get our pre-sales. And there were just 3 townhouses, but we managed to do that. Accountants, they will help you determine the best ownership vehicle, especially for land acquisition. They understand different kinds of property tax. Always remember, when you're doing the development, mostly in trusts, different kinds of trusts. The thing with trust is it's easy, it's simple. You do the development, you can close it, and you can distribute the income to the beneficiaries or the unit holders, depending upon what it is. It's just a lot easier and cleaner to do. The other consultant would be a development manager, and what you guys would be is that you will be development managers, not project managers, because Queensland now has different laws for yourself to be called a project manager. If you call yourself a project manager, I think they require you to have a project management diploma or something in construction. That is the only time you're allowed to call yourself a project manager. So you do a development management agreement instead of a project management agreement. And you've got, and these are all the things that we are learning here about property development, the site identification, the due diligence, the concept development, financial feasibility, business case development for your investors, risk identification and management, finance and structuring, your procurement strategy, how you're gonna get the land, and how are you going to structure the deal, all of that. All this, you engaging consultants, you obtaining planning permit, marketing, sales, everything. All this falls under the role of a development manager. What I do, I'm the development director in my company. We have Sam, who's the builder, and then we have Igor, he's the project manager, because they understand project management. So my job is, what I do is I do everything that happens in the front, making sure the acquisition, the feasibility, the finance, the marketing, everything is done, and we get into the council with the proper yield, because I've studied the market. I know what I'm going to make, what I'm going to sell. I go and get the planning permit. Up until the planning permit, it's not that I can't do the building permit side of it. I don't, but at that time I actually pass on the ball to our project manager, who's Igor, and Igor takes it from the building permit side of it and gets the endorsed drawings. But the developments that I did in Brisbane, and the first few developments that we did with Fitzroy and we used to do everything. But now we are doing a few developments simultaneously. So we've now bifurcated the kind of work that I will take care of and the kind of work they take care of. From that point on, Igor takes over, and then I'm still involved because I'm still involved in the marketing side. I'm still involved in the settlement side, so making sure all the titles are in place. They come in, they settle all the marketing, all dealing with the agents, and then leasing them towards the end if we want to keep them, or actually helping our investors to actually keep them. So all of that work is actually done by the development manager. I also track, there's something that's not in there, but I track all the budgeted versus actual. So I will keep tracking the expense against the feasibility as the moment we start. So we will start with something, let's say it shows X as the total allowance that I've made for something, but as we keep going through the project, I keep tracking it with the actual feasibility. Now, the project manager picks up from site reports, working drawings, engaging other consultants. Like you would need a lot of engineering drawings or civil drawings or stormwater drawings. It starts getting into the actual construction side of it. So they will then put it together. They'll get the specification. I'm involved in specifications as well, because this is a marketing thing. Now, these specifications are a little bit different than the specification that the development manager puts together. In here, I'm looking at everything that sells, the kind of appliances that people are looking for, the size of the appliance. So let's say the range hood is maybe, instead of 600 mm, it's about 900 mm. So if the appliances are 900 wide, they sell more, they look more value. So if I've got a kitchen stone top and it's 40 millimeter thick, it has more value. But then again, you have different ways where you show the width as 40 millimeter, but on the inside it's actually 20 millimeter. So we look at all these different finishes that we offer, and when we get into the marketing side of it, I'll explain those to you, because those are the things that you need to be careful of. These specifications are more detailed specifications about how different things are going to actually be built. So they put the bill of quantities together, the estimation, the procurement, and they tender it. They manage the site, the occupational health and safety. They put together the construction program, services, permits, anything that you need, council permissions, all sorts of things come into play when you are getting ready for construction. So now, as a developer, you might be able to stop here and then hand everything over to the builder, and the builder would do all of that, because this is actually a builder's job, because the builder will look at all of this and come back to you. However, when we do all of these things, or if I was to do a development on my own, I would be doing everything up until here. So these things, site reports, working drawings, building permit, and engaging consultants, well, you'll actually have your consultants right here. And you would now you're gonna say, how do I know what consultants to engage and everything? What will happen is the moment you get back your town planning conditions, I would have a meeting with my architect straight away. I would take the planning conditions, sit with the architect, go over each one of them. There will be things that the architect will have to address for the endorsed drawings. There will be things that the architect will need to order a few reports. Then the architect will tell you, okay, I recommend you 4 different engineers, or 4 different civil engineers, or 4 different hydraulic engineers who can give you quotes. You get your quotes, you put them together, you see which one's coming in, and your architect will also recommend you. If you go to Troy, actually, Troy will look after all of these things, and then give you all the reports and everything. Your job would be to actually look at the bottom line of the report and say, look, okay, it costs $5,000 more with this other guy and less here. Troy recommends XYZ. Let's go with him and get the job done. So they will do all of that and then go and apply for the building permit, because it'll have to comply with all the regulations for the building permit. But before the building permit, you'll have to go and get the endorsed drawings, and there's a full procedure to do the endorsed drawings of what are the things that need to be done before you do the endorsed drawings, and they will all depend upon the planning permit conditions that you've been issued with. So you'll have specifications and construction notes are related to how the construction of specific thing is. Because we do our construction ourselves, I have these things in here, but usually the developer would stop here and then tender the project, give it to the builder, get a quote, and the builder will give you a quote after tendering it out to their trades, and they'll get the trade back. So it takes a while for a builder to actually come back to you with a quote. Any builder who comes back to you, you go and apply for a quote and comes back to you the next day, either they are just trying to win the job by just coming back to you with a number, or they are so good with what they do, like they've got to be extremely good, and that's very rare. This industry is not made of perfect people. The builders usually win jobs if they quote you less. So just make sure that if somebody turns around to you and gives you a quote within 2 days, they haven't done their homework properly. I would get 3 more quotes, and you'll notice it actually usually costs the builder anywhere between $2,500 to $4,000 to quote a job, depending upon the size of the job. The bigger the job, for example, if there is an apartment job, it's going to cost more. If it's a straight out duplex, they might be able to come back to you a lot quicker. If it's a few townhouses, it could still cost them $2,000 in the amount of man hours that take to actually put this thing together, to be able to come back to you with a quote. Now, you guys don't need to hire a project manager per se. So if you have a good builder who's got reputation. Now, a lot of people, this is the first thing that I actually faced, because when I was doing my first development in Brisbane, I had no experience under the belt in Australia. So that was the first project ever. So what we did was, to get credibility, I went to a really good builder which already had a big name in the market. All the banks knew them, and all the big quantity surveying firms already knew who they were. So we went to them, and when the banks looked at my construction financing, they said, "Oh, who's the builder? You haven't got any experience." And when we said, "Okay, this is an experienced builder who's already built multiple projects similar to these," The bank sort of backed off because I borrowed that credibility from the builder, even if it was my first project. And the builder did a good job. It was all finished. We had a bit of a disagreement. That's one of the ways that you can hire credibility. So let's look at different consultants. You'll have architects. We already know what they do. They can consult you on the drawing, the feasibility. The architectural feasibility is the yield. That's what Ashley is trying to do at this stage. When Ashley gets in touch with Troy, that's what Troy would do. Troy would say, look, as per my, whatever the res code is, and as per the regulation, this is what we can comfortably fit on this block and still comply with the res code. That's what an architectural feasibility is. So you'll get those details. You'll use those details in your feasibility, and you'll be able to do your numbers better. So you can architect will recommend you other consultants that they work with. They prepare a conceptual sketch plan. I think I've shown you these things before, but I will pull one out anyway. It's from a recent project that we were doing numbers on, and I can show you some. Where is my year gone? Okay, I can't find that. Here, there it is. So it looks something like this. I think I might have shown you this before. This is not a proper sketch. This is just a feasibility of what can be done on a block. So that's what that is. So based on that, but what they've given me is the size of each one of them that I can use to do my numbers and go on. So they can also create your presentation drawings that will be presented to the council. You can also have a pre-lodgement meeting with the council with your architect, so to get their response of what they want to do or which way they want to go. I would have the pre-lodgement meeting with the architect and the town planner if it's a bigger project. For your scenario, actually I would involve the town planner with it, because anytime you go to a council and there is a report accompanying your application from the town planner, it basically tells the council that you've done your homework and that you've got consultants involved who've given you the right kind of advice to do that. So you've got working drawings, you've got specifications. Some architects will put together that, but usually an interior designer will do it. Again, your architect could also project manage your job, and they will usually charge you for site visits. So what we did was, when I was doing when I was doing a project in Brisbane, I was in Melbourne, and there was no way that I could rock up on the site every month or so to be able to inspect what was going on or whether or not it was going on correctly. So I've said to Troy that until the project comes out of the ground or it reaches a certain stage, we would want you to visit the site, give us like a package for 6 visits or 8 visits or something. And those visits were scheduled initially fortnightly, and then you could have them every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks. It depends upon you. So they will just go in and look over the shoulder of the builder of what they are doing, just to make sure that everything is running smoothly. So if they come across an issue and you are in a different state, your architect can go and solve it for you. It will cost you a bit of money, but they can solve that issue for you. Quantity surveyor is a consultant that for bigger projects we like to involve our own quantity surveyor to give us a cost plan. And what that is based on, even on a town planning drawings, they can do an estimated cost plan for that drawing, but that may or may not be the correct figure, because a correct figure can only be achieved if you've got working drawings. Working drawings are the details that specify how exactly it is going to be built. Now, when you do a preliminary cost plan, it's good, but a quantity surveyor is involved. Your banks will actually anytime you're doing any project that's greater than 3 townhouses, and there are monthly progress claims involved rather than by stages, the bank will enforce a quantity surveyor. So they will not take the word of what the builder is saying. As for the developer, it's pretty good because the developer says, yeah, the developer has to pay for every visit. Every visit, there's a preliminary report that they'll put together that will set you back in. For all our projects that we do, they set us back at anywhere between $3,500 to $5,500 to $6,000, depending upon the size of the project. And then from there, the visits are usually $1,000 a visit, which is every month, or could be at every time a project reaches a stage, like they've reached the base stage or the frame stage or the fix-up stage or whatever. So they can come in and make sure that whatever the builder is claiming as a progress claim, those things have been done. Now always remember that if let's say the builder has ordered the windows and the windows have been delivered on site, but the windows have not actually been fitted as yet. So they are not in there. They are sitting on the side, but they are not fitted. So when the quantity surveyor rocks up, the quantity surveyor will exclude the cost of those windows from the progress claim because they can only include what has already been used or utilized or have been fixed onto the site. So even if something is delivered on the site and not used as yet or not fixed into the construction, the quantity surveyor will exclude it, and the builder has to carry it and claim it in the next progress claim once they are fitted. So quantity surveyor can also do bill of quantities. Some quantity surveyors also do your depreciation, but usually you will find the ones who are quantity surveyors, they are different kinds who specialize in different things. So yeah. So they can also do feasibility studies, but I actually prefer my own feasibility studies than them. Town planners, as we know, they are usually larger developments. So up until 3 townhouses or sometimes even 4 townhouses, your architect should be able to handle them because they are straightforward. And more often than not, there's already a precedent set by a site which is close by. So the architect doesn't have to do much. But anything bigger than that, you would want a town planner to put a report together so that it goes with your application. If you ever did an application or documentation for rezoning, you can take it from me in writing that you would need a town planner. So they can they do urban design and township. I've got an example of Urbis. You can visit their website. They are urban planning and design people who do this is another company, DLA Australia. We've dealt with them, but they are even bigger than a town planner. Like a town planner is looking at every side, doing everything. Urban planning and design is more about the entire precinct, how the whole thing is going to come together, where the town center is going to be, how people are going to interact, how they're going to make the place. There are people who specialize in placemaking, and they're not part of town planning, but they are called placemakers. And they come in and they see how the retail section is going to open up into the main area where people can interact and you can get people to gather there. It just goes into a whole different science altogether. Structural engineer, as it is what it is. Structural engineer is the one who looks at the structure and engineers the structure. So they've got to provide you working drawings, and they can work with the architect. If the architect needs to tweak the design so that it's structurally better, the engineer will look after it. But you also have to be careful where the design all architects and structural engineers, they've got to have a professional indemnity insurance. What it is that if there is a mistake that they make in a project, they can get sued. And if they get sued, they've got this insurance to pay the claims and everything. So more often than not, especially engineers, so that they don't get sued if the roof collapses or something goes wrong, they would over engineer something. So something that can be designed to take a load of, let's say, or it only has to take a load of, let's say, 10 tons, they will over engineer it so that it can actually take a load of 20 tons. But you would say, okay, it's much better because now it's even secure, but what you don't understand is a lot more steel's actually gone into this, which actually comes out of your pocket because the engineer over engineered something. So yeah, you need to make sure that if your cost of steel and your engineering costs are blowing out, it's you need to double check it, or maybe go to another engineer to double check the previous engineer's work, because this can make or break the construction costs, just because they are trying to cover their backside. So they can work with architect. Usually an architect would engage them. Shop drawings are the detailed drawings of how the structure would work. Drawing and specification for structural steel elements, elevation and reporting on structural stability, and on-site supervision. That is what a structural engineer would do. Civics and hydraulics engineer, it works on the fluid elements of the building, which is stormwater, drainage, water supply, and sewer. So how all the stormwater is going to get connected to a legal point of discharge is known as LPD. LPD is nothing. It's the council's stormwater drain, and your stormwater drain's got to go and hook up to the council. So one of the very common problems that we see, and I've actually come across twice already, is when they will design something and they'll find out where the legal point of discharge is, and you can find out by going to dial before you dig, for example. That the engineer will design, okay, take the stormwater from your side and hook it up here. And by when you actually start digging a hole, when the builder starts digging a hole to hook up the services that coming from the site onto, to hook up to the services, to the council services, the council legal point of discharge, they find that there are other pipes or other services that are in the way. And then you got to move further. It cost me $41,000 because of the exact same problem once in Brisbane, and then it cost me $15,000 again in another project in Victoria for exact same problem, where the civil engineer said, even the dial before you dig website said that's where the legal point of discharge is, let's go connect to it. And everybody says, yeah, okay, that's what the drawings say, that's what everything is. When you actually start digging the hole to actually connect it, you find that there are other services going, so you can't really connect to it. So then you got to find the next one up or before from that site, so that you can go and connect to that. And running that extra pipe, the next one could be right in the middle of the road. In my case in Brisbane, this one was right in the middle of the road, where the work could only be done on a Saturday, and it took like 4 Saturdays to be able to complete the job. And every Saturday we had to call traffic management, hold off traffic, then all the works used to carry on, and then it has to be closed. And then to top it all up, what the builder did was they didn't take photos, didn't get the civil engineer to come in and sign off on it, and they just shut the thing off and closed it off and moved on. And then the civil engineer wouldn't sign on it because he didn't inspect the job that was done by the builder. So there was a dispute, and then the builder went and got another civil engineer to sign off on it. How they did it is their problem. As far as me as a developer was concerned, the builder's done his job and obtained an occupancy certificate. So you can't get an occupancy certificate until all these things are working. Electrical engineer, as you know, will do all the electrical drawings, where the power points are going to be, where all the lights are going to be, the kind of load that you would need for the side. All those things will be specified in the electrical drawings. And the mechanical engineer is all about to do with air conditioning, pre-firefighting facilities, lift and escalators, and they provide design documentation and drawings. That's what mechanical does. Acoustic has to do everything with sound barriers, making sure that the noise from one apartment doesn't actually flow into the other apartment. So they'll give you a noise level report. They will give you all sorts of reports, and those reports will dictate. Even if you've got an air conditioner, that air conditioning unit that sits on the outside of the property, and if the noise of that air conditioner is high enough, your neighbors could complain, and that causes an issue. So they've got to make sure that it has to be under that 5 decibel kind of ceiling where it can't be more than that. And they would come and do an assessment on it and then give their report that yes, it's fine, everything is good. So they will find a solution to reduce unwanted noise. So they might recommend something like you could put a cover on your air conditioner so that it reduces noise, so that the noise doesn't reach your neighbors. All those things start coming in. Your land surveyor is a very good friend of yours, because your land surveyor would actually pop in even before your architect pops in, because your architect can't design anything until you've got the re-establishment survey or the feature survey, as it's known in Victoria. In Queensland, it's known as ident survey. It's called identification survey. And what it does is, before the architect can start drawing something, the land surveyor comes in, measures everything. Where is the land? How far is the setback from each of the 4 directions? What is the building? What's the height off the ground? Are there any contours on it? So they will put something together and tell you exactly where everything is at, so that when the architect designs it, they can then design it based on the actual measurements. Now, when you're doing your pre-sales, you haven't built anything. So what you have is what is known as a preliminary plan of subdivision. And if you are building a building which has apartments and everything, the same preliminary plan of subdivision is actually known as building format plan. So it's telling people that if you buy an apartment here, that'll be the size of your apartment, the dimensions, and your apartment would also include a parking spot. So it will be reflected in your building format plan that you've got the parking spot with it, and anything that's included, even storage. Like some apartments have storage for every apartment close to where their parking is, and that's how it would work. So prepared and lodged before construction. So your plan of subdivision, you need it in your off the plan contract. So when we get into marketing, I'll tell you what you need up front. So before you start anything, the land surveyor is a must. They'll give you not only the re-establishment survey or the site contours, they give you the preliminary plan of subdivision and the building format plan. They will come and record accurate dimensions. They will document all the topographical information before and after the development. And when they have to finalize the plan of subdivision as well. So once everything is built, they come back again to seal the plan, saying yes, as per what the drawings were, the actual measurements after it has been built are these. So then once they come back with it, they will give you all those details, and that's how this would work. Always remember that, let's say you started doing a development, and I'm giving you this example because it happened with me on the Brisbane development. There was an issue because we didn't get an ident survey. What we got was I think there's another survey in Brisbane, I can't remember the name, but we just got a normal survey, but it wasn't. Usually that normal survey is the same as ident survey, but somehow when the builder started to work, they got an ident survey, and there was a difference in the setback. So each of our apartments that was supposed to be 72 square meters, they lost a square meter each from each apartment. So that from 72 they became 71. But by that time I'd already pre-sold a few. Now if the pre-sales feel that you were going to offer them X, but you built Y, they can actually get out of the contract. So you got to be super duper careful of how this would work. That your dimensions and everything that is being built are to the same dimensions when it is built. But in my scenario, the mistake was that we initially the architect didn't get the iron survey. So now I've got a rule that no matter what happens, we've got to get the iron survey done up front. So geotechnical engineer is again, now this would actually come up before your structural engineer, because a structural engineer would need the soil report to be able to design everything that they're going to design. So this would come in at the building permit stage, where you've got that report would go to the structural engineer, so that the structural engineer can then design based on the soil conditions. You've got environment consultants if there are issues with it, so reports on impact or development site on the environment, plus gives recommendation on building and environmentally sustainable design. So it's a may or may not kind of thing. So then you get more specialized. If you've got a heritage consultant, they can come in. Landscape architect, again, you would need the landscape architect up before town planning as well, because you got to put in a landscape plan with the town planning, because landscape has to do with everything that's happening outside of it. And the building surveyor, also known as the certifier in Queensland, is the guy who will look at all these reports and say, okay, now whatever you've drawn, your working drawings and how you're going to actually build it complies with the building code of Australia or the building code of Queensland or Victoria, or basically all the construction codes that are standard. So they will look at everything. They will do an inspection at every stage to make sure that everything is being built to the standard. And once they sign off on something, usually it's off builder's back. So let's say if a builder built something and the floor collapsed, 6 months later, the builder's not going to get anything. The builders only maybe will get a warning or something like that, but nothing. But they're going to come after the engineer who designed the slab or designed the floor, and the building surveyor who actually approved that yes, it has been built to the standard. So they might say that the builder did it right, because so long as the builder actually built it to the specifications, the builder. So this is like a passing the buck kind of industry, where, as you would have seen recently in the news, that everyone's trying to pass a buck on the cladding that's gone up, that is not fire retardant. So everyone's passing on someone's pointing the finger at the developer. The developer came up with this. Developer saying, what's my fault? The architect designed it. He should have looked after it. The architect saying, that's not my fault, because the building surveyor was supposed to approve this, what goes into the building. So all they are doing is pointing finger at each other, and it's very difficult to get pinpoint. But I kid you not, at the end of the day, it'll be the building surveyor who's going to get hanged, because he's the one who actually approved it. So it was up to him. He would have said, I will not give you the building permit unless you change the cladding on this thing, so that it can be fire retardant. But if they agree to it, then, and I know a building surveyor who actually lost his license recently, and he used to be a building surveyor, but he got into a fight with these two developers, and the two developers just pinned everything on him. So he's lost his license. And they are a very well-known building surveying company. I won't take their name, but yeah. So what all these people would do would give you all these drawings. Apart from the 3D artist impressions that we'll discuss in marketing, your architectural drawing, your civil, your hydraulics. All these people will actually give you either a drawing or a report. All of those things have to then be put together and then used further in the next process so that you can eventually get a building permit. So, and then you got finance broker and an insurance broker. Again, there are different sets of construction insurances that the builder needs that you don't have to worry about, but your bank will never give you any money until the builder presents a homeowner's warranty insurance, especially in case of residential buildings. Unless you got this that covers the cost of the build, your bank's not going to lend you any money. You as a developer should have your public liability insurance. You got to have your replacement cost insurance for the completed development. If you eventually you're gonna lease it, you're gonna have a rental loss insurance. If you're gonna rent the property out while you're holding it and getting your plans and permit, you should have it covered. At any given time, someone's got to have some insurance on that property. So if you settled on it, but the construction doesn't start for 6 months, go get a public liability insurance and a landlord's insurance if it is being tenanted. If it's not being tenanted, get a public liability insurance and lock the premises out and make sure that it's secure. Once you hand it over to the builder, it's the builder's homeowner's warranty insurance that will cover everything. But the moment the builder hands it back to you, and it comes back to the developer after the occupancy permit is in, now the builder won't care whether or not your settlements are ready or whether or not you've settled or not. The builder's going to look at this and say, look, I've got the occupancy certificate now. The ball's out of my court. So the moment that kicks in, either you should have, again, your public liability insurance and contents insurance, because now everything is built. You could have vandals who could walk onto the site and spray paint the entire building, and then you got nothing that covers you. So make sure that you've got something there. If you have a body corporate, the moment you get an occupancy certificate, you should be ready with your body corporate to have your body corporate do an insurance of the building and everything. And from that point on, the body corporate takes over rather than you as a developer take over. But again, you as a developer still have to pay for the body corporate insurance up until the time the settlement happens. So, and they do like a pro rata calculation so that the moment somebody else settles on it, you pay the insurance till that point, and then the rest of it comes out of from the settlement from the party that settled on it. So that's what all the consultants are all about. So we will, what time is it? We still got time. Let's go to obtaining permits. Anybody would like to ask any question at this stage on consultants? Okay, so let's keep going with the DA and the planning permit and so on. So what's a development brief? Everything starts with your development brief, and your development brief is actually derived from your due diligence about the area. So you could say, I need, describe project key objectives, outline visions of the development, how it responds to the market. So you could have things where it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom kind of market because it's more family oriented, or it's a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom kind of market because it's more singles, or it's closer to public transport, or it's an investor product, and so on. So you have to give a design brief to the architect for the architect to actually be able to put something together for you. Site description, site plan, site survey, which is that Google Maps, you highlighting the site, existing boundary, other specifications that come in there, town planning regulations, they'll all form part of your development brief. And the project scope, list of tasks to be completed before construction with clear objectives. This is your entire project scope, and at this stage we are breaking down everything that we do in so much minute detail in order to actually make it child proof, or we like to call it idiot proof. um, in our organization, because what's happening right now is that we're getting one project and second and third and fourth, and we start losing track of which project is where and everything. So now we are getting into systemizing everything that we are doing. I mean, we had that before as well, based on this system, but now we are breaking down everything even further in our organization. We've just started doing that. So the goal for us as a company for the next 12 months is to break everything down so that there is nothing left to guesswork. Developers' vision, strategies, objective, beliefs, visions, the kind of building description, the build form, external theme, aesthetics, internal character and design, handicap provisions, and always use experienced consultants. So what's in the planning permit? Now, planning stage is all about the footprint, the height, the character of the development with respect to the neighborhood. It involves the site entrance, the exit to the site, the egress and egress, and it's there to tell the council that the building envelope has been complied with the res code. There are no shadowing issues. So planning is all about the footprint, the height, the building envelope, the character to the neighbor, the shadows. It's all about that. Once you've got your planning permit, the next stage is your building permit, and the building permit is all about construction of exactly how are you going to build this thing, what are the things that are going to be involved with this, and so on. So a planning permit authorizes the use and development of land by accessing proposals against council planning schemes and the state's planning legislation. It particularly examines the impact of the proposed development or use on the surrounding area, whereas building permit focuses on proposed structure, its safety and amenity. So starts post acquisition until construction. So your planning will go up until that time, and it would involve all your design, cost estimate, financing, marketing analysis, financial feasibility, project schedules, and so on. Emphasis is on town planning, so which is more on elevations, floor plan, landscaping, and the footprint of the site. So that's what the planning permit is all as well. So if you look at the process, let's look at the process in detail. You got to start by engaging the surveyor. You got to have a feature or the re-establishment survey or the contour survey, or if you're in Queensland, you will have the ident survey. That's what you start with. Second step is to engage an architect. You have to talk to a builder, get their feedback on the design. Once you've got a feedback from the architect, I would go straight to the builder, but in most cases I am the builder, so I just go to the next room and talk to Sam about all of this. But you would want to talk to a builder and say, what I'm building, is this correct? Is this good? And in fact, in most cases, if I don't know the market really well, I would find a real estate agent who's doing well in that area and involve the real estate agent in the design process as well. So the real estate agent would say, look, if you put 3 bedroom and 2 bathroom and double cars, it's a rock star. It's gonna fly out of the when you put it on the market. So those are the things that you got to be careful of. Then you got to engage the town planner for larger projects to deal with objections. If the council proposes the development, you got to do that. So objections you will find like these. These are vigilantes. We had this site 223 Napier Street in Fitzroy. So when we were trying to get the planning permit, they distributed these these flyers all across the neighborhood. Everywhere on the neighborhood you could find these sitting everywhere. So there were 16 apartments. We did get a 5-story development. This is actually their stamp or whatever that they put on it. and then they made these flyers and they distributed it just to drum up more objectors for us. So take it in stride. It's nothing personal. They have a right and they do what they do. Send them love. Anytime I'm really agitated by certain people and their actions, I send them love and blessings. And most of the time it works out. So if there's a nasty if there's a nasty objector that we come across, I would in my head say, I love you and God bless you. And it works out. That's just my personal way of dealing with these things, because there's not much you can do. They have a right and you just have to follow protocol. Pre-lodgement meeting, you can have a pre-lodgement meeting with the council, obtain council feedback, get general advice and cautions. Although we did that, I teach that, but it's not a given that the council will not flip even after you've had a pre-lodgement meeting. We had a pre-lodgement meeting for a site with 5 townhouses, and the council, we were pushing for 6. Council said no, not 6, 5. We show them 5, they okay 5, and then they flip again, and then we changed the whole scheme to 3. Instead of 5, we went to 3 4-bedders. So the project still works. And that's where your due diligence on all of these things, on backup and fallback positions, have to be in place. Permit conditions must be followed, must comply with these conditions. Now, this is the moment you get your permit, they'll come with permit conditions. Any variation requires approval from the council. So if you want to change something, if there are minor things, they go in for a minor amendment. If it's a major issue, they might ask you to re-advertise it. If you change the configuration, so let's say you had 3 3-bedders, and then later on you said, look, can we make one of them a 4-bedroom? They might push you to go through the full advertising of 21 days and cooling off and all of that again. So yeah, don't push that once you've got the permit. Always remember that there is an expiry date on the permit, which is usually 2 years from the date of issue. Whether or not you're allowed to get an extension on time, in most cases you can go in and pay $200-300, that's a council fee, and you can extend the permit for another 2 years if you haven't been able to build it. You have to check the landscape plans as well, provisional landscape plan and associated planting schedule. So I think what I've done is somehow this ended up here. This should have been as part of permit conditions, because a landscape plan is asked for as part of the permit conditions. So provision for landscape plan, associated planting schedule, what you're going to plant. They will specify exactly what height trees they want, what variety they want, the kind of grass they want, pot sizes. They will put everything and put in there based on their species type, mature height, width, everything. Drainage and water sensitive urban design. There could be provision for rainwater tanks or solar hot water service, provision for stormwater works, which incorporates the use of water sensitive urban design principles to improve stormwater runoff, provision of splay, stormwater management plan, traffic conditions, infrastructure and road works, things like tree removals, relocation of pits and power poles, or they could be relocation of bus stand, for example. Like in the Brisbane project, we had to relocate a bus stand, which cost us $5,000. General amenity conditions, heating and cooling, exhaust fans, etc., must be located adjacent to bedroom windows or adjoining properties and must be concealed from the street, or you must have a written consent from the authority. So these are the different kind of permit conditions that you can get. You then have to address them, and The town planner will then again compile a report based on the drawings provided by the architect. And again, for smaller projects, an architect can issue a letter of compliance showing the design conforms to the council planning scheme and give it back to the council. Council will then stamp all the drawings. And once you get all the stamped drawings, you start with your working drawings. A building permit authorizes the construction and alteration of buildings by assessing any proposed new building infrastructure, whatever. Emphasis is on details and can only be obtained after planning permit has been achieved, and that would involve all of these working drawings for it. The building permit process, or the BA process, is that the building permit process first involves the assessment of the proposed building or structure against the Building Code of Australia, because the building surveyor or the certifier has to do it. You will need to submit detailed construction plans to an accredited building surveyor, certifier, either a private operator or one employed by the council. And the process of obtaining a building permit begins with your application form that covers the following: your property details, blah blah blah. I actually filled out one form recently. I can actually show you that form, which is called Form 1 in Victoria. That form looks something like this. So this is the building surveyor, and you can fill out the details, the architect details, their license numbers. You can put in the details in, and then they will put the building permit fees, everything together. Along with the application form, you also require the following. This differs depending on scope of works. You need a site plan with full site location, all boundaries, easements, and any existing buildings to be visible. Structural drawings including a detailed floor plan and elevation. Just as the size and scope of every building project varies, the process of obtaining a building permit can change as well. Once all relevant documents are provided, a building permit can then be issued immediately and your project can commence construction. So that's what the obtaining permits section is all about, and it's pretty straightforward. All of that. The only thing is that different reports pop up, different consultants, involvement of different consultants will pop up. So yeah, has anyone got any questions for the night regarding anything that we might have discussed? Okay, Elaine, give me 1 second. Okay, Elaine, somehow the mic doesn't come on. Okay, it's on. Hello?
Amber.
Yes, Elaine.
Just wanted, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, just wanted to explore option where you got the development permit already with working drawings.
Yeah.
So from there on, what's the next step? I know you got to apply for a building permit, but at the same time, you can also do the interior design, specification, and all sort of renders, isn't it?
You need to get your, well, if you want to start marketing, you need to finalize your specifications, and then we will discuss all those details when we get to the marketing section, which is very soon actually. I'm just checking out as per our schedule. Yeah, we've got marketing next week. So we have marketing next week. So next week I will dive into all the schedule and everything. But if let's say you've already got the building permit, or you've got the working drawings.
Working drawings.
Okay, I would trigger two things simultaneously. The first thing I'll do is I'll get everything that I've got, working drawings, put together all the reports, shoot it to the building surveyor, and say, look, this is the drawing. I need to get a building surveyor. Tell me what's missing. Sometimes you just have to act dumb. And when you act dumb, they will tell you what's missing. They will tell you what's going on. and then you can pick it up from there. So if I've got something that already has plans, permit, everything, I'll just get in touch with the building surveyor and say, look, this is what it is. Tell me what's going to be. He'll give you a form to fill out. You'll have to fill out that form, and he'll come back to you with a quote and all the things that they need. The second thing I would trigger simultaneously is that I will finalize my list of specifications, the kind of things that I want to put in. Once I lock those things in, I would go and engage a graphic designer or whoever who does the artist impressions or renders, and get them to do it for me. And once they come back, you got to match it with your specification list, because if your specification says the external wall is white or whatever, and they give you a render that is gray, then you could be in for misrepresentation in your marketing.
Okay, so list of specification is done by who? By the architect or by interior designer?
You can do it. An interior designer can do it based on your brief to them, or the standard things. I can give you a template next week, and the standard things are there. And you use the standard stuff in there.
Right. Okay. Yep.
Your town planning permit would have details about what the external is going to be, the material in the external that is going to be used. It will mention everything. Whether it's brick veneer, whether it's a render on the outside, whether it's going to be weatherboard on the outside, whatever they're going to use, it'll always be mentioned on your town planning permit, and the council would specify it. And then you can talk to an interior designer if you want to engage an interior designer, and then they will tell you the details.
Okay. In terms of costs, roughly, what's a range for a building surveyor, interior designer?
Building surveyor will depend upon your cost of construction. So they have a formula just like and it's a very complicated formula. I tried to put a calculator together with it, but it is so complicated. I said, forget it. It's better to just give them something and get a quote from them. But just depends upon the total cost of the construction for this. And always remember that total cost of the construction will then have to match their cost has to match with your contract, that it has to match with your with the builder's homeowner's warranty insurance, because the banks will check everything out. So sometimes the reason I'm saying this is because I'll give you an example. I'm going to build my own house. I'm not involving a bank. I've got cash. I'm going to use my own cash to build it. But Maven Builders, which is the construction arm that we have, is going to actually build it. So I don't want to pay the building surveyor more. So I declare a less construction value and less contract value because I'm the one building it. You know what I mean? But if there was a bank involved, I would have had to pay all of that, because the bank would want to see a match between the contract and the build price and the homeowner's warranty insurance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So so that's the reason. So I would activate the building surveyor and the marketing side of it ASAP.
Beautiful. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thanks. So just wait for next session next week.
No worries at all. Thanks, Len.
Thank you.
Okay, Will, your turn.
Amma, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Beautiful. Okay, so with the question of the JV with the builder, I just wanted to get some feedback and some advice in how you will go with structuring this. How will you propose this to a builder?
Okay.
A JV with a builder.
I have to ask you a few questions before I tell you who you need to go and see, accountant or a lawyer. And then I'll tell you how I would put it together. Are you planning to get into business together to do it over and over again? Or do you want to do it together for one project?
No, I would like to explore the possibility of doing this in the future over and over again.
Okay.
If possible,
So who's doing what? are you gonna, so let's say, is it gonna be like a 50-50? You shake hands and you say, look, no matter what we do, you come up with half the money and I'll come up with half the money.
It will, yeah, most likely it will be a 50-50, or in case there is another partner in the JV, the equity will be split in equal shares.
Yeah, so you could have, now when you do the building, who's gonna do the building?
So this is, just so you know, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, this will be my project manager. He's got his unlimited license.
Yeah.
And I just want to propose this to him in the right moment. So he will be building it, of course. He's done townhouses before. And I guess we'll be working together and doing the same things that we do at work, but just on our own project. So I will be helping as well in the construction. And he will be, of course, supervising and making sure we're doing everything correct. And yeah, so we will be working together in the construction, and I guess I will be putting the deal together and making sure he agrees with the numbers as well.
Okay, you'll be putting all of those things together, understand? So let's say you've got a developer. There has to be a development entity here. And the builder has to have a building entity on his side. So let's say you build something between... now, what I want to understand is this. The banks will not want to see the builder holding units in the development entity, right? So this would be, let's say...
Okay.
Will and Will's project manager, right? And it could be a possible investor on this side. So this is your development entity. This development entity could be a unit trust, could be a company, could be a partnership. You need to see an accountant of what it is going to be. But whatever it is, it has to have a unit holders agreement or a JV agreement. You can see the screen?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, so there's got to be something that stipulates how these people are going to behave, and all these details would have shareholding, who's going to do what, and what happens if X happens.
Yeah.
Correct? All the good case scenarios and the bad case scenarios. Somebody runs out of money later on, what will happen? How are you going to be treated? So these things are going to be stipulated. Your shareholding would dictate how the profit, loss, distribution, all that. But then on the other side, there's also this builder. Now there's got to be a different entity that is actually going to do the build. If that is not your entity, Will, that means that entity is owned by your builder. Yeah? So are you fine with your builder getting the builder's margin on a development that you guys are doing together? Because to me, it looks like he's double dipping.
What do you mean he's double dipping?
Well, it could be any other developer. But if you know a builder on this side, I would want to have some money from the builder. So what you can do is that if you don't mind him doing the build under his license, under his own company, so whatever you could decide that whatever the cost of the build is going to be, he's going to work on just 10% margin instead of 20% margin.
Yeah.
So you need to establish that in the first place. So once you've established that, all you need is actually do a agreement with the developer here, which is your build contract. And that is the build contract between the builder and the developer saying, okay, you're going to build this at X amount of price. That's fine. All your money comes from the development entity. The development entity is made up of you, and this guy could be the same here. This project manager could be the same builder over here.
Amber,
Yeah.
so in this agreement, one of the sides, the left side is the builder, and then you've got the development entity. Now the development entity here, is this a unit trust?
You can. Your accountant has to tell you that.
Okay, yeah. Because what I was thinking of how it will be is putting. Let's say I'm showing this project's got 15% margin, but
Yeah.
I'm doing this at retail construction rates. If we were to use his license, we could agree in a way cheaper rate, and we could build this project perhaps together. Then we will be agreeing in a cheaper rate, and the profits will be bigger as well. And what I was thinking is that we are equity partners into the JV, and then we'll just split the profits depending on our shares. So it's not like I'm hiring him and he's going to be the builder. He's more of a partner into the whole JV that we're doing. He's a partner completely. So we're agreeing into a lower cost and then sharing the profit. So I just wanted to see how will you put this together to a builder? How will you propose it? Or how did it work in your case as well? How do you came with ideas and propose this to someone?
In my case, I have a shareholding in the construction company too, because I do a lot of construction related work as well. And the developments that we do, they have a shareholding in the developments as well. In my case, there are two different entities. This is called Builder Pty Ltd. And in that, there are shareholders. And I am here too. And instead of me, it could be Will, and it could be Will's project manager, who are shareholders in the building entity. When it comes to the developer or the development entity, you could again be a partner there as well.
Okay.
And hold units there or whatever. And if you got a possible investor, let's say you guys are going to build it and you are shareholders here, then these people come in and they say, look, I'm going to put 200,000, he's going to put another 200,000, you're going to put 400,000. So based on that, you should get 50%, they should get 25%, and the possible investor should get another 25%. But that's share of the development profits. They are two separate entities. This is the one who's going to buy the land and do a contract with this builder, go build this thing, and then I'll do the selling, I'll do everything on my end, and I enjoy the profit. But when the builder comes in, it could be any builder, he's not going to build it for you for free. He's going to give you a building contract, which is a fixed price contract, otherwise the bank won't look at it. So that builder, in my scenario, the way that we do the contracts, the ones that we did initially to get us off the ground, we only did by 10% on this side. Now we do 20% on the build, so that it won't be any different to us getting because more often than not, we have other investors with us here. But if we went to somebody else, or if we didn't go to somebody else, it wouldn't matter. You won't be able to build it for free, or just on cost.
Yeah.
So you gotta keep. There are two different entities here. There are two different entities here. I'll just delete that. So there is the building entity, and there is the development entity.
Is it possible to buy the land into my name and the builder's name as well? If it's just one project that we're doing together? If it's our project?
You can.
Okay.
But why would you do it in your name and his name? You do it in an entity.
Yeah, in an entity, correct. Yeah, and we can be part of the entity, correct?
Yes. So we do it in the development entity. This will do the land acquisition. This will do the land acquisition.
Perfect. Yeah, it's definitely helpful seeing it like this into like a diagram. It helps. Another question while I have you here.
Yeah.
In terms of getting an architect involved, let's say I have a site and I've run my numbers. It's got a good profit. I'm pretty sure what I can fit in there, but I just want to get the advice from an architect. How much does an architect charge to do, or even just like a drafter? How much do they charge for doing some basic diagrams, some basic drawings into what you can fit in there, or like an architectural feasibility?
If they are new, if you are new to them and they're trying to win your business, more often than not, they might be able to do it for free, because what they want is to win your business. But if you keep going back to them and keep asking them for favors, eventually you're going to get a bill. And
Okay.
So that's.
So they might even do it for free at the beginning.
At the beginning, I mean, I got it done for free.
Yeah. Good. Another question. Have you ever flicked a project before? Let's say, have you ever bought a land, done drawings, gotten everything ready, and then sold it to the market?
Yep.
When you were talking, just say we were talking about the stamp duty, and you need to take into consideration the stamp duty that you're going to pay. You pay the stamp duty once you settle on the land, correct?
Yep.
Let's say I've got 1 year settlement, and on the 11th month, I can flick this project and have everything ready.
Yep.
Could you skip the stamp duty, or you always have to pay the stamp duty?
You always have to pay the stamp duty if you're making a profit.
Okay.
So if you sign the contract on the land for $1 million, and then 18 months later, you, let's say in 12 months time you've got your DA and everything, and if you nominate somebody else to settle on it for $1 million, no problem, you don't pay stamp duty, only that guy pays stamp duty on $1 million. But if you flick it up to him and sell it further for 1.2 million, you paying stamp duty on 1 million, he's paying stamp duty on 1.2 million.
So it's always when you're making a profit.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Even if you sold it for let's say $1 million and $1 extra, you'll be paying stamp duty on it.
Okay. All right. Good to know. That's it for me.
No worries at all. Thanks very much, Will. Anybody else who would like to ask any more questions? Okay, then we're going to call it a night, and I'll see you guys next week with marketing. And I love marketing side of it. It's going to be really good. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys next week.